conference will now be recorded.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, one and all, and welcome to the Heber City Planning Commission meeting this day, which is October 28, 2025. So we begin. We'll call the order first, which is tonight. That's your right. We have Commissioner Greg Royal, Commissioner Barrett, Commissioner Joshua, myself, Will Jordan, Commissioner Gilbert Groden, and Commissioner Wilson. With that, we would like to begin this evening with a pledge of allegiance. I will read right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Anyone that have a prayer or thought? I would ask that we all remember the rights that we have as American citizens to vote, and next week is very important. Various areas, particularly here in Heber, we're very pleased that we have that right. So I just encourage everyone here, please get out and vote, and if you can do what I'm doing, which is to remind everybody that we have a beautiful, very amazing right and privilege to vote. With that, any need for any one of our commissioners to recuse for sake of the conflict of interest or perceived conflict? Good, thank you. So we have a consent agenda this evening. We have the meeting minutes ready for approval of October 14, 2020. Motion to approve.
Chairman, I move to approve the consent agenda for the minutes on 10/14/2025.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion? Any need to change the rate? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition to it? Nay. The ayes have it unanimously. Excellent. Action item number 1. We have a public hearing for Heber City water use and preservation general plan. That is, I believe,
Yep, Jamie. So, yep. Yep.
Jamie out there?
Is he?
All
Sorry, we can't really hear. We can't hear the chair. I can hear you, Tony, but I can't hear the commission. What? Let's They
Maybe
maybe
I
just
got
need
the
to
wrong
talk.
mic. This one. Do you want to see if
How
that?
about this, Jamie? You hear me okay? Jamie, how about now? You hear me?
Barely. Are you guys close to the mic?
Oh,
Overheating the mic.
I'll see if I can turn it up louder.
Want to invite Commissioner McKinley to join us while we're looking?
Oh, your input device needs to be changed, Tony. The microphone needs to be changed to the.
We can't hear him either. We can't hear Jamie either.
Yes, it is. I think he'll be louder now.
Can you hear me for a minute?
It's very faint. It's like it's all coming through Tony's speaker, not the individual speakers. So the input needs to be changed to that one. Try that one or the other one.
See if that helps. Do you want to say something?
How about that? Can you do better?
It's not any better.
Okay. Well, do you want to see if you can get Anthony? Okay.
You want the microphone?
Jamie, can you hear me? I mean, if you guys can hear Jamie.
Go ahead with Jamie.
If we can hear Jamie, I think we
There you go.
better.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Great. All right. I think we have a screen to share. We're actually shared. There we are. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Okay, Jamie, ready, set, go.
Thanks. Is Aubrey? Sorry, I can't. Is Aubrey Larson there with LDI?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just kind of introduce it, and then Aubrey was going to go through the presentation for us. So Aubrey with Landmark Design is our consultant, who we selected to help us with this project. Back in 2022, the state legislature passed Senate Bill 110, which requires every municipality of a that is not a town or fifth class, which is a smaller community than ours, to have a specific element in their general plan that talks about water use and planning. And so we are looking at adopting this plan or a portion of that general plan to comply with state code. It does have to be adopted by the end of the year. So Russ Funk and I have been busy with LEI working on this plan. And so we're bringing this before you tonight. The policy question for you really is, does this does it meet state code? We believe our analysis is that it does, and that are the policy recommendations and guidelines something that the city is looking to adopt. And so what we're hoping is we're having you review this as part of that public hearing requirement, and then I think the emphasis would be on if there's you support the policies and guidelines. With that, I'll turn it to Aubrey Larson.
Would you like to sit down? You don't have to stand if you want to sit down.
That's fine.
It's your choice.
Can you hear me okay? Is it picking up?
Well, I think we can.
Okay.
Jamie, can you hear
Jamie,
Aubrey?
can you hear?
You guys are clear now.
Okay, great. I will get started then.
Awesome.
Hopefully. Okay, so I'm going to try and move quickly. Hopefully you've had a chance to review the draft document. This evening, I'm just going to provide a little bit more of a project overview and background, and then walk you through the content of the draft document itself. And I've got a pen to take some notes if you have comments that you'd like to see integrated. And then hopefully we'll have some time for discussion and if there's any questions.
Aubrey, could I, pardon me, it was a little hard to
Yeah.
hear Jamie. Could you just introduce yourself one more time and,
Yeah, I'm
who your
Aubrey.
employer is?
Yeah, I'm Aubrey Larson. I work for Landmark Design. Heber City contracted with us to do the Heber City water element, but I also do term planning. So you'll hear my voice sometimes.
Welcome and thank you.
Thank you. It's great. It's great to be here in person and see some faces. Okay. Project overview and background. So first off, who's been involved? Again, myself and my team with Landmark Design, and then we've benefited from city staff having their eyes on this project, and especially Russ Funk, the city engineer, providing help with some of the more technical elements of the document. And then, of course, the public works director, in addition to Jamie himself. So thanks to everyone who's been involved. Timeline. So we kicked this project off in December of last year, and then things kind of picked up in the spring. We had some team coordination meetings starting in March. Also met with Jordanelle Special Service District as part of this project. That's mandated by state code to meet with the culinary water providers. So we met with them. We did some internal review in April. In June, there was discussion of any remaining items. And then in September, the draft was finalized. And this evening, we hope to have a public hearing and then a recommendation from you all. Jamie already mentioned SB 110. This is the reason we're talking about this evening. SB 110 water is part of the general plan. It requires most municipalities in all counties to amend their general plans to address how land use planning impacts water use by the end of this year. There's kind of a laundry list of requirements, but I think it's helpful just to boil it down to these 4 main requirements. The first being to analyze the effect of permitted development or development patterns on water demand and water infrastructure. 2, look at methods of reducing water demand and per capita use for existing development, and then the same for future development. And then look at opportunities for the municipality to modify operations to eliminate practices or conditions that waste water. And then to take a step even further back, as a reminder, this will function as a new chapter of your general plan. So per state code, there are now 4 sections that are required. You have a land use, housing, and transportation element. You will now have a water use and preservation element. And the role of the general plan in this new chapter is to act as an advisory guide to land use decisions. It's meant to describe where you're at, where you want to be, and then provide some goals and strategies on how to get there. It does not create regulations or requirements, but as I mentioned, it may recommend new policies or strategies. Okay, walking through the draft document itself. So the first section is an introduction. It dives into this topic of how do we integrate water and land use. It sets the stage. It talks about SB 110 and some of those requirements. And then right at the top, we highlight, what are some of Heber specific water planning challenges? And there's more details in the document itself, but essentially we boil it down to these 4 big ideas. Growing pains, rapid growth has strained Heber's water system. You also have annexation complexity. There are a lot of special service districts that provide services, and that can complicate planning. Water intensive landscaping, as with most of Utah, we love our Kentucky bluegrass, and turf heavy landscaping does drive up water use. And then evolving rates. My understanding is that meters are being installed, so you will have better data in the future, but right now you're kind of in between. And I really like this quote. This came from your current water conservation plan. I think this sums up why we're talking about this. When the well is dry, we know the worth of water. A little more context for water planning in Heber. We took a step further back and looked at the regional watersheds. Heber is part of the Utah Lake watershed. It's one of 5 river basins that do eventually drain into the Great Salt Lake. And we also looked at your population trends, and I want to note that unless otherwise specified, the data and recommendations presented in the document, they're focusing on Heber City's water system, not on the special service districts. And that graph below is just showing population projections. A snapshot of your current water system is in this document. We talk, generally, how does a community water system work? What are the differences between water rights and shares? We delve in a little bit more into, context with the special service districts, and that map on the right is kind of showing you their service boundaries. We have Jordanelle, SSD, kind of the bright blue, North Village, yellow, the orange is Twin Creeks, and then Heber City water system is the dark blue. And Jordanelle SSD kind of acts as the umbrella for those other 2. There's also a breakdown in the document of your annual culinary water use by category. I think it's just helpful to understand, about 73% is residential, 22% commercial use, and then minimal industrial, and then a little bit of institutional. The next section talks more about water and land use, and we talk about water conserving development patterns. I think Heber's done a great job. You've used strategies like cluster development, infill development. These are things that help to conserve water as the city has grown. We also did an analysis looking at density and water demand, and then there were some takeaways from that. What I did is I went into GIS and I kind of sampled some different densities and properties and looked at landscape composition and did just a very high level analysis. So from that, we know that outdoor water use is, it's the largest and most discretionary component of residential water use. High density does bring efficiency with smaller lots and shared yards, reducing per unit water use in higher density housing. However, more units and dense developments can increase total water demand per acre. With moderate densities, looking at lot design, landscaping, and irrigation choices can make a difference in how much water is conserved. And then it's important to recognize that when we convert natural or non-irrigated land to development, it has a significant implication for increased water consumption. Further into this section, we explore some of the indoor and outdoor conservation practices, both that Heber's already utilizing and things that they could look at. This has to do with appliance upgrades, leak repairs, water efficient landscaping standards, your secondary metering project. The image on the right is highlighting Heber's water efficient landscaping standards. You already have a fantastic landscaping ordinance, and it makes it so that the city qualifies for Utah Water Savers programs, so that's great. Financial and educational incentives, and then some other considerations to think about: agriculture, institutional spaces, setting an example for the community with those civic spaces, and then of course the special service districts and what they're doing to conserve water. This is just a list of, here's some ideas to help move the needle further, and they should be reflected in the goals and strategies. We can go into these if you'd like. I think what I'll just highlight here is we did reach out to the Conservancy District, and they provided numbers for program participation, so you can kind of get a sense for what residents are interested in, programs they're using. It's important to acknowledge that some of these programs are older than others, so bear that in mind. So the most popular so far has been the Smart Controller Rebate Program at 150 participants since 2018. Okay, forecasting the future. This is where Russ came in and was very helpful. A water budget is something the state is asking for grant recipients to look at, and I believe Heber did receive a grant for this project. So a water budget compares the water a community will need in the future with the amount it can reliably provide. And that table at the bottom is meant to just show you some of those different numbers. So we have source capacity, current demand, and that's compared to projected demand. And the conclusion is that currently there really isn't enough data to determine a reliable supply that incorporates secondary water. That data is forthcoming with your metering project, but Heber is expected to have enough drinking water to meet average demand, excluding areas served by secondary water districts. Okay. Then the last part of this document, we go back to the region. The state has set different regional goals, and Heber's part of the Provo River region. So that graph at the bottom is just showing here is the goal from the baseline of 2015, 222 gallons per capita per day. By 2030, they want to reduce that by 20%, 2040 by 27%, 2065 by 32%, so on and so forth. My understanding is that these goals are being updated, so I think they just kind of serve as a baseline foundation, giving you a little bit of perspective. Heber supports watershed health. You have a water shortage plan, which is great. I believe it was adopted in 2023. This outlines water use priorities for demand reduction during circumstances of drought, and it gives a hierarchy even outside of drought conditions. So I think that's a great resource. You also have a sensitive lands ordinance that protects environmentally sensitive areas, reducing impacts, protecting aquifers, etc. Okay, so the last part, goals and strategies. I'm not sure how you'd like to go through these. There's really, I believe, 3 big picture goals and then just a bunch of different ways you could achieve those goals in the form of implementation strategies. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just read the goals, and if you want to talk about any of the implementation strategies, just let me know. So goal number 1 is regularly review and evaluate current water use and preservation strategies to meet Heber's long-term needs and goals. So that table that you see on the right, we went through and inventoried what is Heber already doing and then organized them into categories. So one of the categories, for example, is, let's see, your physical system. So continue, I'm sorry, I can't read it. The citywide initiative of, I believe it's talking about metering. So making sure your system's up to date, fixing leaks, things like that. So we've kind of organized this table to be useful, and as much as you review these things, make sure that they're still working for the city. So that's more or less what goal 1 is getting at. Goal 2, explore opportunities to promote water conservation and efficiency through city programs, policies, and coordinated planning that aligns water supply, demand, and reuse priorities. And then goal number 3, support long-term water sustainability by exploring opportunities for water reuse and encouraging voluntary or incentivized retrofits of existing structures to reduce overall water use. And then 2 implementation strategies. I think that is the end. So I'll open it up to, I know it's a lot of information, really fast, but yeah, any questions, discussion?
That's a lot of information. It's great. Could we go 2 slides back to the actions that are being recommended for goals and outcomes? I think it's the second to last slide, right?
This
Right,
one?
yeah. So let's see. Just if we could just slow it down for a minute. So of these goals and strategies, 1, I believe 2 and 3, are there 3 of them? Is that correct?
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to find the
Of
expand button.
those, which are really completely new or which are sort of revamping what we already do?
So I think with goal number 1, everything in that table, this is stuff that you're already doing. So we tried to include implementation strategies in the other goals that are new or slightly different.
Okay, so just the redoing of those strategies, right? Okay. And now an understanding of a water conservation committee. How would that be formed and who do they report to? Any ideas?
I think it depends on what you need your committee to do. So I think in conversations, the public works director could be part of that committee, an engineer. Um, it would help, maybe one of the tasks for this committee is to look at those existing strategies and make sure they're still working. Um, it really depends on what help do you need with water conservation? What do you want that committee to
Are
do?
you familiar with other jurisdictions that do this now, that currently have a water
That have
conservation?
a committee?
Yeah.
I think this is a new idea. A lot of places are exploring. So I can't
Okay.
say,
Bless you.
yeah, one way or another if it's been effective or not.
Okay, so it could be described as really a genuinely new idea, not just new for Heber. Okay, all right. Tony's taking a break to sneeze outside, I think.
It's too exciting for him.
Okay.
I have a question. On the implementation, it's, on most of them, it says establish. So who and when will we begin establishing those?
That's a good question. So I wanted to ask, how do you want to model your goals and strategies? Do you want it to be based off your current general plan? Do you like that format? Or do you want it to be a little bit different and maybe timeline based? So that's a great question. I guess I'd turn it back to you.
Yeah, I think so. Um, um, I guess my next question was really about resources required by these goals. Have you, in some comprehensive way, understand when we implement, what would be some of the resources required besides obviously some volunteers and time spent?
I think other strategies we've used in the past is you kind of, decide what are the variables that increase cost of a strategy, whether it's, people, whether it's resources, it's capital, it's time, and then decide based on those variables, can we rate these goals and strategies in such a way that maybe they're phased, some are low hanging fruit, some might require more effort or resources. So that could be something we could do.
And of these goals, there's a 32% reduction goals I read there for, in how many years?
I believe by 2030.
2030. So that's really only 4 years from now.
Mhm.
Right? Think of it that way. With a 32% reduction, how did that number come about? I'm just wanting to understand the realism of that. Is that something Russ had some documentation to, or?
So my understanding is that goal came from a report that the state put together. They worked with Hanson Allen Luce, and so they did this analysis and study. They did public engagement,
Yeah.
and so those numbers came from that study done, I think, in 2015. So it's old. And in
Oh.
conversations I've had, I think they're looking at updating those numbers
Okay.
based on more current data.
Okay. Very good. I think we need Tony to proceed. We're going to do, we're not, we're going to get to the public hearing next. I was just asking some more questions. Yeah. Well, we can come back to more questions. Shall we open a public hearing for this? I think that's scheduled, right, Michelle? Yeah. So Aubrey, thanks a lot. We're going to probably call you back, so don't go too far. Is that all right? Very good. All right, one and all. So we're scheduled for a public hearing on this proposal and actually having a deeper dive into it. So with that, could I ask Michelle to read us some of the parameters of that? And just to remind everyone that while you're seeing us look at various screens, it's because there's a significant amount of data that we're looking at the same time. We're not doing our emails. And I forgot to ask for everybody to please mute your telephone. That would be very appreciated. So Michelle, let's commence with you.
All right. The public hearing comments can be emailed to pcpublic@heberut.gov. The emailed comments may be read up to 3 minutes during the open comment portion of the public hearing and will be included as part of the permanent public record. Participants may also comment through the online portal by turning on their cameras and raising their hand. Once the comment is finished, we ask that cameras be turned back to the off position. Whether comments are made in person at the council chambers through the online portal or emailed, make sure to state your name. Limit comments to 3 minutes and do your best not to repeat what has already been stated.
Perfect. Great. Thank you all. So with that, let's commence and open the public hearing. This is super important for us as your fellow citizens, we're volunteers and citizens of yourself, to be able to understand and hear all these different issues. So we really appreciate everybody's comments. You have 3 minutes, and please come forward and speak your piece about this particular proposal. This is now open for public comment. Also, anyone joining online would like to have a comment, please raise your hand and we'll be able to turn your camera on and recognize you. Very good. Hearing none, we're going to close the public hearing for this subject and ask if the commissioners have any additional comments or questions of either Aubrey and or engineering. And I think we need Tony to be able to get back and forth on the PowerPoint. Maybe someone see if he's okay. Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it. Make sure he's okay. I'm a little worried now. All right, commissioners, the time is ours. No worries, Tony. We kind of expected you right back, so then we got a little more worried. So, Tony, I was just kind of understanding the resources required. We actually love that document, so you can bring that back. Thanks. Yeah, I do. Thanks. We're still in the middle of deliberation for this particular proposal. What resources, Tony, or maybe Ross or Aubrey, just looking at this holistically, what resources are required to move us through an action items on these goals? And again, I understand we're looking at a 32% reduction in as many as 6 years or 4 years? 6 years, I believe.
32 by 2016, 2065.
2065.
20% to
Oh, there it is right there. That got me scared. That's great. Okay, that's a little more reasonable. Okay. So, Aubrey, any comments to that about resources required for this to move ahead?
I think I'll just repeat my former comment. It depends, really. It does. And I think it would, to have a good answer for you, I'd want to spend some time. I'd like to sit down and, think through again those variables of how much time will this take? How many people need to be involved? Does it require funding? And then
Yeah.
we could weight them that way. And I think that would be a good approach, at least to give you an idea of
Sure.
what's easy to accomplish versus might take more time.
Yeah, and it's not lost on me that this is required by our state government for us to actually adopt this by the end of December of this year. I'm just curious what it ultimately means to us as far as the public sector. Okay. Tony, you and I discussed a little earlier today. We had just an update. I was reflecting on city ordinances related to the use of irrigation water outside of the hours of 10 a.m. or not permitted between the hours of 10 a.m. and, sorry. Yes, is it 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., I think, daily, without a penalty? Is that, so Ross, are you familiar with such a thing? Is there a current penalty for the use of any irrigation water in the hours of 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily, 7 days a week?
Not that I know of.
Okay, it was introduced to me as a new city ordinance I'd say about 20 months ago. So either somebody made that up or I thought I understood it to be the case.
I think, we obviously have a lot of growth. A lot of people are coming from other places and probably bring with them what ideas they have from other communities, and maybe they just got confused.
Okay,
I think it was discussed at a city council meeting, and then they discussed the fact that enforcement was virtually impossible, and so they chose
not to do
was
that.
not to move ahead with
Thought it
that.
wasn't- Now wasn't a great time. I could be wrong. I think this was a couple years ago.
Everything would have to be metered, and the meter would have to.
Well, this is just literally, if you see a outdoor sprinkler system being used, then the city has the right to essentially enact a penalty to that owner.
Yeah, I remember them talking about it and not wanting neighbors to be calling on neighbors and stuff. We weren't quite to
Yeah.
that point, I think but I think it was discussed.
Yeah, not good. Well, and to be, right, and not to be cavalier about it, but the reasoning to do it has to do with the water pressure you have to the number of sprinkler heads and valves that you have. So just an example, sorry, being the Muirfield guy, we have approximately 2,292 sprinkler heads, which are formed, or sprinkler heads that are essentially given water by over 497 valves that are controlled in 11 control stations with well over 270 control channels. And that's just the Muirfield development. So we worked out a plan that basically said no matter what's going on with the landscaper, we did not want to pay violations. Then therefore, every sprinkler in that system must be finished wherever is going, whatever amount of pressure we're getting from the city to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish must be done by 10 o'clock every morning and cannot commence again until 6 p.m. that night throughout the entirety of the watering season. Otherwise, we thought we were going to be fined. So I just wanted to bring that out.
We can certainly investigate that a little bit more with you. It certainly is better practice to not water during the hot time of the day when
Exactly.
a lot of your water will evaporate.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. So with that, we've had a public hearing. Aubrey, do you have any other comments and
No, not unless there's other
Ross, I don't know from
questions.
engineering's point of view, if you have anything else you want to add at this point?
No.
And commissioners, do you have any questions that you have for this evening?
I don't really have a question. I guess my concern is whatever goals and strategies we have, if they just get put on a shelf someplace, they're not going to be worth anything. Unless I'm guessing it would be the prerogative of the city council to set up a board or a committee or whatever they're going to do in order to
As
implement
recommended.
this stuff.
Yeah, as recommended. Yeah. Very good. Okay, while we normally under our let's say policies do not have a motion for this planning commission and in the same event or the same meeting we have a public hearing. My sense of this with the reaction we've had from the public as well as from ourselves as commissioners, that this could be moved into an action item this evening. So would anyone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we move to forward a positive recommendation of the water use and preservation element to the city council as presented, with the findings and conditions as presented in the conclusion of the staff report.
Awesome. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Therefore, discussion. Any discussion?
Would it be possible to include in this recommendation a request for the city to adopt a means of implementing these things?
Yeah, Tony, we had a quick question while you were out about, yeah, while you were sneezing, about implementation, and one of the goals was like, so the next step is put these things in motion. Is there currently a plan for how we're going to put those in motion?
I have a couple of ideas for you. You're right. Plans can become stale. If water conservation is very important to you as a planning commission, you are asked at the end of the year to report what you report to the council on issues that are of importance to you. We are having a meeting, the three of us tomorrow. I mean, if it's really that important, let's put it on that list. We can report to the council, look, we are recommending this to you. And by the time we're at council, they may have already acted on it, but let's bring it up then and say, we want to make sure that this doesn't get stale. And that's actually part of what my discussion is with the general plan. Let's not let it get stale. Let's make sure that we keep the dust off of that.
Okay, so that's kind of the next steps as we
I think so.
approve it by this time, and then we just need to keep it on the forefront to get this kind of up and rolling. Okay, that makes sense. I don't think we need to amend the amendment.
Yeah, I think I think we're good on the amendment in the motion and the second. But I agree with you. I think we all agree with you, Robert, that first of all, this drives, as I've seen in this report, a lot of significant, shall we say, processes and motions and consideration to all the areas that you articulated. So I applaud the fact that this plan is not just a sort of skim the top. You've gone down to the root of many, many issues we're dealing with in terms of density, what we're doing or not doing to control that, what that definitely means. And with that, I have clear in my memory that engineering has made stormwater like the number one issue, any of this growth in this valley. So I think everyone that's in this room and is listening right now would say that if you look at our valley and see what's happening in the amount of change, water has to come to your mind within a nanosecond. That's why I really applaud the complexity, but also the simplicity of what you're put forth. So to your point, Robert, having a separate body that is essentially attended to this, I think is enormously important. I'm happy to see that that's in this proposal, and perhaps the motion would be essentially amended to say that that water commission or water committee should be organized as soon as possible. And I think that's already in the report.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We've had a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, be recognized by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition, nay. We are unanimous. Thank you very much. Appreciate all the hard work to Landmark and to staff. With that, let's move on to item number 2. I happen to have the agenda here.
Item number 2 is public hearing for North Village.
There we go. And who's handling that this evening?
That is Dina Woodbury.
Dina
Planner
Woodbury, I believe you're with us virtually. Very good. Welcome.
Thank you. This item is for a public hearing to consider amending the MDA for North Village Views located at 3390 North and Highway 40. Let's see, the policy question. Okay, the policy question includes the following. Should the existing MDA be amended to be for approval for North Village Views? They're asking a modification to their master development agreement to address some of the required zoning design elements, including those contained in the NVAS for their proposed townhomes. North Village View was annexed into Heber City in 2022. On November 12th, 2022, the City Council approved a master development agreement with the North Village Views developers. The applicant has moved forward with the project, but has come across some challenges in meeting MVAs due to the topography. The applicant would like to amend the MDA to address those items that they're struggling with due to the topography. The variants requested are the following: the block length and perimeter. They want to vary from section 18.21.040 of the zone provisions such that distances are adjusted in accordance with the site plan. Number 2 is alley loaded garages. They want to vary from section 18.21.030 of the zone provisions such that the townhomes are constructed on property and will not be required to be alley loaded, but instead be front loaded. The third variance is found in the townhome requirements from section 18.21.030 of the zone provisions such the front property, these are the requests for the front property line coverage. They want to vary from the front build to zone, also from the building variations, and then the transparency per story requirement, and then also the number of buildings per unit. That should be number of units per building, I'm sorry. That they may be adjusted as reasonably necessary to meet the design set forth in the site plan. And then the fourth request is the length and distances and necessary infrastructure to cross the drainage ditch area are hereby approved in accordance with the site plan. So those are their requests. I want to note that we do not have elevations for the building to properly analyze the building variations and site plans that comes with future applications. The North Village.
Dina, sorry,
Yes.
this is Phil. Could you just speak up a little bit more? Because we're having difficulty this evening with our technology. So if you don't mind just raising your voice a bit, that would help us enormously. Thank you.
All right. Sorry about that. So they do have challenges with the topography, and it makes it difficult for them to meet the design elements. Other developments in this area have had similar challenges. Staff recommends the Planning Commission hold a public hearing and discuss their variance requests and then forward a positive recommendation to the City Council, subject to the following findings and conditions. The findings are the application is consistent with the municipal zoning code. 2, the application is consistent with the general plan. And 3, the proposed site plan shall comply with the city ordinances, federal and state law as applicable to the site where the condition is located. The conditions are all requirements of the city engineer shall be met. These are the requirements from the engineer. Applicant and any successors of this project shall comply with all city policies, processes, ordinances, standards, and specifications. Additionally, all master planned infrastructure elements on or adjoining the subject property need to be designed and installed by applicant. All city engineer requirements will need to be satisfied prior to any final development plans being approved. The following are site and infrastructure concerns known at this time that need to be addressed with future submittals. Please note that the following list is not considered all-inclusive, and additional concerns may arise as design plans are submitted for review. 1, all suggested modifications to the draft MDA provided by the city on the first submittal remain applicable and should be incorporated into any finalized MDA. 2, the sensitive land section of Chapter 18 prohibits residential and commercial structures in areas with natural slopes greater than 30%. Roads, driveways, and trails are permitted to be built across natural slopes greater than 30% with approved geotechnical reports and engineering design addressing slope stability, retaining walls, and erosion prevention. 3, applicant needs to incorporate the city's master plan for trails. Trail design needs to be included in the design plans. 4, the road alignment may need to be changed. UDOT is currently working on a design for Highway 40 and bypass alternative routes in this area. Applicant will need to coordinate with UDOT for access permit and require improvements. 5, ensure emergency vehicle access is available through phased construction. 6, stormwater design manual needs to be followed, which includes hydrodynamic separator or other allowed systems for pre-treatment prior to infiltration. 7, the specific location on the channel where the buffer zone code exemption is requested needs to be identified. Example, the exemption will not be granted along the entire length of the channel. Other conditions are all code requirements are met, and all conditions from reviewing departments and agencies be met. Fire has added some conditions. The multifamily stacked units will need a secondary access. Single family dwelling units over 30 need secondary access. Please show connectivity to adjoining properties for secondary access. Hydrant location and quantity for the multifamily commercial areas to be determined at next submissions. Development is in the designed wildland urban interface area. And then the last condition is any other conditions or changes as articulated by the Planning Commission. And that's all I have for you. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'll turn it
Dina.
back to you.
Okay. Thank you. Ross, did you have anything you wanted to add to this report? Seems like engineering's been through this quite a bit.
No, I don't have anything to add other than those conditions that we put in there. However, I do want to see if we all are on the same page right now, and maybe Tony can educate us just a little bit. As I'm understanding it, Tony, we are preparing an amended MDA. That's what we're doing. We're seeking advice and counsel from all of the departments and now from the Planning Commission. And we do not have a draft, and check me here, Tony, we don't have a draft of that MDA as we, right now at this time. We're just gathering information to incorporate into that MDA. Is that correct?
Correct. So when we do a development agreement amendment, typically starts with council, and then oftentimes if it's a smaller agreement, council can ask the administrator or our city manager to finalize the details. In this case, it was determined to be a larger development agreement amendment. That therefore it comes to Planning Commission. Modification amendment, I think, is a proper term. When we do this, we with the Planning Commission, we usually don't have much more than just the conditions as Dina outlined. And when we get back to City Council, that's when we give those to our attorney, who then plugs it into a actual agreement.
Okay, with that said, so we incorporated all those conditions that Dina just read, and we will look forward as staff, as the engineering department, to a draft of this MDA once the city council weighs in on it, and we will certainly work and modify that accordingly. So we're good.
Thank you, Russ. So we're not open for public comments. Are you the applicant?
Yeah, they're the applicant. Please come
Yeah, I
up
was
to
about
the
to
table
say,
if
could
you
we ask the
could.
applicant? I was about to ask you to come forward. So please come forward and sit down here and introduce yourselves. And why don't you take some time to walk us through what's going on here?
Yeah, so I'm Seth Harvey. I represent North Village Properties. As Tony mentioned, we originally approved this MDA back in 2022. So it's been a labor of love for quite a while. Just so everyone understands the etiology of where we got to here, the city asked us to amend some of the roadways. And so this has been through already one amendment back, I think, last year, Tony, if I'm remembering that rightly.
Yep.
And early last year. And then because of some of the other changes, we've had to amend some other things here, which is why we've gotten to where we've gotten to. So there is actually a draft, Ross. It's in the pack.
Oh, yes,
So-
it is. You're right.
And as I understand it, that draft was provided by you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we made some comments on that, and you'll see one of our conditions that Dina read was all of the comments that we made need to be incorporated in addition to these other ones that we have. So yes, we've seen that
Okay.
draft, but as I understand it, that draft was not provided by the city, that was provided by the applicant.
Yeah, and that will still need to be, and I apologize, I didn't read the whole packet, but yeah, that will need to be finalized with the attorney, definitely.
Which is no problem for us. I mean, I drafted that amendment based, I think it was because you requested me to, Tony, and then, we're
Yeah.
happy to work with the city attorney to get wherever we need to get to on the details of it. So
Thanks for the clarification, because I'm looking at a contract and I'm hearing that it's not really there. So that's
Yeah.
good.
the only thing I think from our standpoint that need to change is since we drafted that amendment, which was actually about 7 months ago, we met with Russ and on the changes that UDOT is now requiring to come up with 40. So I can give you this, or Tony, maybe you have it. Oh, this is the new plan.
Is that the plan you wanted to show up there?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that would be, it hasn't changed much as far as our site plan, meaning for the actual, scope or the site that we're going to build on. It does change the roadways quite substantially, but that was required mostly because if you see this red line kind of down the middle, that's where the original roadway was going to come. We took it off to the left, which is the sloping part to the east there, at the city's request to accommodate the arts district, which Mike Bradshaw's group is doing up to the east above the canal. And then the last part is we had to move this road down to the south at UDOT's request to accommodate their larger plan. And so we've worked with UVU, we've worked with all the other developers, and this is the plan that's come up with. In fact, we're meeting with all of them tomorrow to work out exactly who's going to do what. But this is the plan that we've settled on. So it did change us a little bit just with if you look at the road going north from the roundabout, that's really the bigger change, which caused us to have to squeeze the units a little bit differently than what they had in the plan that was in the pack that probably came to you initially. But that's really the only change to the concept that we would introduce. There's no real change to the units. In fact, I think we have a couple of less units than we had. So we're at 204 against a density of 230. So that's basically what we've gotten to. And, as has been mentioned, the slope and then the changes to the roadways is really what's necessitated the changes for us, and hence these requests for variances to the standard, although they're fairly modest in nature.
So thank you. Anything else perhaps do you have comments to the staff report of any kind? Do you have any comments to the staff report that's been
I
filed
don't
today?
think so. Paul, did you have any?
I don't have any. I don't have any at this point.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Yeah, I think we're happy to accommodate staff's comments. No problem from our standpoint at all.
Okay. Tony, anything to add at this point?
No, I would certainly echo Seth in regards to the transportation plan. As a developer, they've been really good to work with us. They probably feel like they're on a yo-yo because they came in with the plan and we said, nope, we want you to put the access way up here. And then we all were happy and all the stars were aligned, all the developments seemed to align, and then UDOT comes along and says, nope, you can't put a road intersection there anymore. And so we asked them to move a road, which was up here at Finch Creek, which was a fabulous, I thought at the time, a fabulous way to make it work. And UDOT said, no, you've got to move it down here. And so we've had several meetings with College Downs, Finch Creek, North Village Views, and Utah Valley University. What you're looking at here is kind of the best information from all those meetings. And Seth is right. Yeah, we as a city have kind of urged them in this direction because we really need to have the transportation work. We need to make sure that we're not destroying the bypass. And that's probably the primary reason they're here. Secondary reasons, obviously, is there's a lot of topography. And as Paul has platted those and found out what the NVOS really requires, they've found the list of items related to topography they're asking for some relief on. Their neighbors to the south, the Highlands, as you recall, had a list of probably 13 items, I think, just for their apartments, and then another list of a dozen items for their townhomes in a very similar manner. So this really isn't out of character with what we've done with Highlands. My biggest thing or soapbox that I got on when Highlands was here, if you recall, was if we're going to have front-loaded garages, I really would like to make sure that those are private roads. I think that's the case here.
That is the case.
Yeah, front-loaded garages just are very challenging. People point at your field and say, the roads aren't wide enough. Well, that's more complicated than that. And I believe the HOA is going to function a lot better in this scenario of having private roads with front-loaded garages than having the city involved with a lot of the snow plowing issues. So I think this is a great model for success if we're going to have front-loaded garages.
Thanks, Tony. Tell us a little bit about the trail design obligation and what you're doing about that. And I'm sorry, you'll need to introduce yourself.
Paul Watson, project engineer.
Hi.
And we were just trying to follow the city's master plan. So we have trails along the canals. But that's really about it.
Currently, that design is not included in the design, right?
Currently, yeah, we do not show the trail plan. But we are intending to follow the city's master plan.
Okay. Also, a little bit about the loading of the garages and how that changed and what we're looking at now.
I don't know if it's ever really changed from ours. What changes really the roadways, which if you've been back through the history is that we're on like version 30 of this design. But I don't know, Paul, if there wasn't any really major changes to it.
I don't think we have any major changes. I mean, most of the changes that I've done really are from the roundabout out towards Highway 40. Because before the roundabout was on that red line.
Going west, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, coming west down from the
Yeah,
roundabout to the 40.
coming west, correct. As Seth previously said, we were kind of following that red line, which is the old gravel access to UVU
Yeah,
in the back door.
yeah.
And since that got pushed out,
That's where the white fence is right now.
Yeah,
that is where
exactly.
the white fence is right now.
Yeah.
So since that got pushed out, then we had to regroup with what UDOT wanted. So the majority of changes are from the roundabout out Highway 40. Since the roundabout changed, that made the senior center flip from one side of the road to the other side of the road.
Is that where it is now?
Yeah, so the previous version had it on the other side of the road.
Following the canal.
But the interior stuff is pretty much the same as it was 6
Okay.
months, a year ago.
That's right. And the NVOS standard, Tony, about rear loaded versus front loaded, remind us of what NVOS and what was the purpose of that conversation with the city council?
Sorry, yeah, Dean has outlined those, and I'll kind of open up the staff report and look into that a little bit more.
Thanks.
Yeah, so most of these issues, I think, were actually on the Highlands. So the first one, if you don't mind me backing up a little bit, the block length and perimeter. Walkability is the reason for having a small block and length and perimeter. It's challenging when you have canals and topography to have small blocks. Highlands had asked for that relief as well, and so they also have a larger block and perimeter. And Paul, if I misstated that, okay.
The intent of the block length there is great. You're on the other end, but when you're on hillsides, it really it's troublesome.
The alley loaded garages are a form-based issue. Most cities really like to have the rear loaded garages. It's, planners geek out about this subject. Developers, it drives them crazy. In this situation, the North Village has a lot of topography, and it's challenging to have a rear loaded product in that scenario. Paul?
Because of the slopes, when you're doing rear alleyways, you're basically building two roads. You're building a primary road on the front, you're building another alley road in the back. So you've lost half of your developable space. So when you do that and you also compound it with slopes, it's just getting too much.
And then on C, the townhome requirements of the frontline property coverage. That the property line coverage is, making sure you have a building that's a certain width along your lot. And the build to zone is making sure that you are with, minimum setback, but there's also a maximum setback. And that's challenging when you have a hillside slope too. And that's also something that Highlands had asked for. Because if you're going to demand that the building is at a certain distance from the road, then all of a sudden you're doing more cuts and fills and retaining walls.
You are basically, all of our units are either a walkout basement or a walkout upper story, because what that does is that allows me to take up 10 feet on each unit right off the bat because of the elevation. And if we can do that, then all of our roads are basically at grade. One unit walks out to the elevation of the next unit. But if you try to incorporate an alleyway into that, now it just pushes it twice the distance of what I need to fit those same kind of products.
So the number of buildings per unit typically, I think, was 5 or 6, and I'm not too familiar with that aspect of what you're asking for. Transparency per story, that is your windows, and then building variations. Now, these are all requests made by DR Horton in Highlands as well. We did see the actual building elevations when we were at this point.
I was just going to ask.
And so we did ask for a lot of architectural assurances that we weren't going to end up with house after house after house looking the same. And so I recommend that we hold this to the same standard, that we make sure that the homes have reasonable variety in them. And then finally, the lengths, distances, and necessary infrastructure across the ditch area. I guess that's kind of the same with what Paul was saying with the canals.
Well, this one's a little bit different
Is
because
it?
of that
Okay.
drainage ditch. And so what we worked out with Russ was because we have to cross that. Well, this is the road that the city requested of us, which if you look at it, it's the curved one that comes down from up above the canal. Because of what Mike Bradshaw wanted to do with his group above the canal and the Arts District, they asked us to move the road to come basically across. Yeah, you
keep panning.
Yeah, right there
Okay.
on the left, right edge of your screen there. The only way for us to get down that road from we were going to go around this way to the south on the other side of the substation. We got asked to move it this way down the middle of our property basically. And what we agreed is that we'd come up the right side of the canal, cross over the canal, the drainage ditch, and then go across the canal from there.
So, okay, so what that is getting at is the storm drain channels
Yes.
that we've identified on our storm drain plan. And what you're saying is the road basically goes right through.
No, it kind of crosses over.
Kind of crosses over. Okay.
There's a part of it where you do have to guide it through it. Otherwise, there's no way to make it work. So we were, again, responding to the request to us. That's what we came up with. Russ and his team looked at it. They assured us that they were happy with that. And so, yeah, we come up the right side of it, we cross over it, and then we come up the other side of it. So we're not just going down it per se, but we do have to cross over it. And so there's a distance that we are on top of that drainage. But of course, we'll have the pipes underneath to make it work.
I can add a little more clarification to that. The word ditch keeps being used. That is not correct. It's a drainage channel.
Right.
And as you know, our sensitive land ordinance requires that they stay a certain distance away from that drainage channel. What is being asked for here is that they be able to cross it and for a certain distance there, and that requires an exemption.
And that drainage, that channel goes straight up the whole ridge, right? Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And I can take the mouse and show you where that channel goes if that helps.
It's right there to your left, if you can grab it.
All right, so where's the mouse?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's where the drainage channel starts, and then it comes down through here, and then we pop out right here, and then it keeps going. So we need to connect into here for the Arts District.
If I can look at that, it's following the contour lines is what we're doing, right?
Yeah. So the channel is, like I said, I'm picking it up right here.
I see it.
And then it's coming down, and then I'm daylighting the pipe back out right here.
So just one more comment on that. We were careful in crafting our conditions to be included in this report. And I don't think there's any issue here. I think this will help clarify things, but we want it to be made very clear in the final MDA or the final amended MDA of where this buffer exemption is being granted, and that it is, and specifically that it is not along the entire drainage channel. So, and I don't believe that's a problem with anybody, but we were very careful to make sure we said that, because it's not an exemption along the whole channel. It's just right where that road's crossing. It'll be very clearly defined.
Okay. Very good. All right, so commissioners, we have a public hearing this evening for this event, this particular modification amendment, second amendment, I think, to this MDA. So are there any questions just before we commence with the public hearing? You'll have an opportunity to comment later.
I just have a question under the fire conditions where it says single-family dwelling units over 30. What does that mean?
30 units. So on a dead end road, they don't want to have more than 30 units until the secondary accesses are done.
Well, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with any kind of a condition that is ambiguous. And I think the way it's worded now is ambiguous. I'd like to have that clarified.
That came from, Dina, is that coming from engineering or from you all?
I think that's coming from fire right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Single
Yes,
family
it's
dwelling
coming
units
from-
over 30 need secondary access.
Yeah,
Yep, it's coming from the fire department.
I think that's what they're basically saying. I think therefore, we'll make sure any kind of movement forward that we get that clarified, Robert. Okay. Any other comments, questions rather at this time? Very good, gentlemen. If you don't mind hanging out, we may have some more additional questions. So with that, we've heard earlier this evening, Michelle went through the parameters of our opening and closing of public hearing. With that, I believe we now can, we are noticed on this as a public hearing. Excellent. So with that, we can open up for those that are in the room or anybody online, any comments or questions you may have for this. And so we are now at this minute opening up the public hearing for this particular amendment request. And anybody online that would want to participate, please raise your hand and we'll come off camera. Oh, man, that's too bad. Hearing none, I therefore close the public hearing and it's open now for the commissioners to either make comment or additional questions at this time.
So it's my understanding that the buildings are, you're using the buildings basically to make the grade transitions so that the roads stay relatively on grade, not a lot of fill or cut for roads. Okay. I think that's more attractive than roads lifted out of the ground on retaining walls or cut.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that in terms of, quote,
they're- they're
scarring.
using- they're
You know,
using
looking up the hill. What does that mean for us looking up the hill to this development? Is it less
Well,
or
I think the
more?
roads look more natural because they're on grade. They're not, and then the buildings are what, the transition of the grade is happening along the sides of the buildings.
Right.
So I think that's better than, I mean, what does everyone complain about when they look over at Deer Crest?
I was going to ask about Deer Crest. Yeah, these huge retaining walls. Yeah.
And we've really eliminated we have very few retaining walls because of doing this.
I have two questions. Is the amount of open space affected at all by these changes?
I don't believe so because the majority of the changes were from the roundabout.
Yeah, I actually think it increases the open space. We've got less units.
Right, there's got to get, yeah.
And my second question is, I don't know what the original agreement was for any affordable housing, but with the reduction in unit numbers, will this affect any affordable housing you would agree to?
No impact. So the affordable housing is 5% at 60% AMI. That's what we intend to do. And it actually doesn't affect the units at all. So.
Thank you. That's all I've got. Well, shall I make a motion or does anyone have?
Yeah, we usually do not on a public hearing, but I think since we've had zero input from the public today, and the staff seems to be very, very dialed in, I think from my position as your chair, I would say this could definitely warrant an action. So it's up to the, pardon me? I'm not quite sure, but I'm happy they're here. Let's just.
I mean, wrap it up.
I understand. So with that,
Tony? do you think it would be prudent for us to motion that we continue this?
Well, only if you feel they're uncomfortable with the information that you have and you want to see changes. I always recommend if you have a mob here that's with pitchforks that you move it on to the next meeting so that you can think about it and make sure that you get it right. You can incorporate that. You haven't had that feedback here. So if you have a comfort level on moving it on, move it on. If you need a couple more weeks to chew on it and want to have the developer bring more information,
I don't always like to go off of feel, but I feel like we have some commissioners that aren't comfortable with it.
Oh, I just hate developers coming in and wanting the land to work for them, not them work for the land. But that's a whole nother issue. Tony, do you think that any of these variances are going to create a precedence in the future?
I don't. Your two bigger developers or developments, I would say Highlands, and then maybe this one. You do have a lot of topography on the
Yeah, you're building on
crossings.
a hill.
The crossings to the north. I mean, this and the Highlands are the majority of what you're going to see developed up here. We just annexed the crossings. They did ask for some exemptions for retaining wall size. There's just a lot of topography, as you know, up by Highway 32 and Highway 40. Honestly, this doesn't surprise me that they're here asking for this. There's a lot of topography. I don't see this creating a precedent at all.
Are any of these requests similar to requests that have been made in the past by some of the other developments south?
Yes. So they are they're very similar to what Highlands had requested. I'm pretty sure that all of these were in the Highlands alley loaded transfer.
Yes, they
Transparency's the
were
only one
all,
that I'm not aware of. I think Dina actually did the staff report on that too. But to my knowledge, transparency is the only one I can think of that we didn't really address in Highlands. So go ahead, Dina.
I was going to say they're all consistent with Highlands. And I believe on the townhomes, we also did the transparency just because of the way the garage doors work. They couldn't meet that transparency for the garage doors. But the Highlands did not have the length and distances necessary for the drainage channel. But all the other ones, Highlands requested and were granted after they provided their elevations, so we could be ensured that they were going to meet the building variations. And
so Dina, there actually was some storm drain issue with Highlands, if you recall. One of their initial first amendments that they did to their development agreement actually involved the channels as well, somewhat similar to what we're talking about here. They had the storm drain channel coming down through, and what we did is we allowed that storm drain channel to actually be artificially or moved and to go down through their town center and use it as a feature. Their initial plan was to just kind of keep it along the side of the road as a big, ugly, barren channel. And we said, no, let's move it and make it interesting. And so,
Can I just ask as well, you consider a lot of our changes here were requested by the city. The only reason we have this issue about the channel is because the city asked us to make it an issue. And so we're responding to that, which is also, by the way, why some of the other roadways and things were changed, which reduced our density. We're well below what our approved density was. And that costs us money, a lot of money. And this has also been going on for 3 years. So, we've really tried hard to make sure that this meets everything we've ever been asked. And we have worked with the land for sure. I mean, we could have done a lot of different things here. We could have had massive retaining walls. We could have had a lot more density. We could have had stacked flats. we responded to the city's request to us, and I think we've created something which is going to be really, and I live here, by the way. I'm not an outsider. I live in Heber, and we wanted to make, and I pass by this every single day. So we wanted to make sure that this, met what the city was asking us to
And
do.
Seth, you brought up stacked flats on this last go. So initially, when it was annexed, council said no stacked flats. Did a development agreement amendment a couple years ago, and council said, sure, do stacked flats. But as you platted this out, you came to realize that there's no way that you can get stacked flats
Well,
in there.
you could do it. It would require massive retaining walls. It would have required a really inelegant and clunky road system. Even though we would make more money doing it that way, we determined that that was not in the best interest of the city. Certainly not what I wanted to see going past it every single day.
My last question, I promise. So are the building heights different now that the stacked flats have been eliminated? Or was their maximum building height for the stacked flats the same as the townhomes?
No, they would have been higher. I can't remember. I think we had a variance.
It would have been higher.
To go to 4 stories. Paul, do you remember?
It might have been, but right now, these are all 3 stories. So you'll have 1 basement, 1 garage level, and then 1 upper story.
Similar to what's there in the other
Yeah,
developments.
so lower heights than what we would have had with the stacked flats, because I think with the stacked flats, we had an approval on the
For
last
4.
amendment to go to 4 stories. So we took that down.
Yeah. Well, I think, we would, from our perspective, that's a positive. So we recognize that.
Thank you.
Very good.
Gotta take little victories when you can.
Yep. Exactly.
Anyone else?
I was going to say, any
Go
other
into a motion?
comments?
I don't have a problem with this. I mean, if they were coming to us saying, hey, we're making all these adjustments, oh, and we added 30 units, that'd be different, but
Yeah.
that's not what's happening here.
I don't have a problem with it either. I think if it's going to aesthetically change, having the roads at grade and things of that nature, less retaining walls, I like the fact that it makes it more natural, than driving down the road and saying, oh, well, there's another project that looks crappy, right? I like the idea of this, and I'm for it.
Yeah. Projects that adjust to grade, I mean, that happens all the time. I mean, I only deal with it on a small scale, but when you're first laying out developments, you don't have boots on the ground survey yet. It's all conceptual. You're using aerial topography. And then as the project gets further down the road, you get more and more detail, and sometimes you have to adjust.
Right. And then the pushback is the road system.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have the city requesting things or other developers pushing back because they want a road somewhere else, or then you have UDOT in there. So.
And those are all issues that have come up. So
Right.
Very much over and over again.
It's
Roberts. Okay. So Ross, I think we've heard you tonight say that while there's an amendment in here, you'd still like to be seeing the sort of the I's being dotted and T's crossed. Is that right?
I think as natural progression here, this is going to, Tony, correct me here if I'm wrong, this is going to go to the city council. At that point in time, they'll instruct the attorney to draft the amended MDA, and we'll be chiming in on that amended MDA as it goes forward. Is that correct, Tony?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. In other language, it sort of feels like a term sheet, and I get it. So it's certainly more than that. Okay. So with that, I think we're going to break from our normal policy of not having a motion or an action taken on an item when we have a public hearing, so that we respect and can consider the opinions of the public. However, this evening, the public doesn't seem to wish to voice anything on this. So at this juncture, I think we as a planning commission should feel comfortable in breaking policy and moving ahead. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I move to approve North Village View's second MDA amendment as presented with the findings and conditions as presented in the conclusion above on the staff
Do you have a
report.
second?
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Royal is seconded. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion recognized by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition, nay. Unanimous. Thank you very much. And obviously, I think we need to thank you for given what you've said, for your patience with this project. So thank you very much. Thank you, staff.
Thanks.
Well done. Let's move on our agenda. We have a public hearing for the Springs at Coyote Ridge Phase 5 Development Agreement. I believe this is Jamie
Tony,
joining us from home.
thank you, Sheriff.
Did he die?
Thank you, Chairman, and
Jamie, just, we're still having a hard time hearing everybody on the go-to meeting. If you could just speak up, that'd be great.
yeah, is this better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yes, so this is a public hearing for a development agreement for the Springs at Coyote Ridge Phase 5. Originally, this development came in as part of the VXC annexation. It was there were multiple properties and developments in that annexation. The property in question is the Morelco property, owned by, not by one of the developers at the time of the annexation. Thrive Development, who owns the Springs at Coyote Ridge, has gone under contract on this property and is seeking to do a row of townhomes and 2 commercial offices buildings, similar to what's to the north. So if we can scroll down in the report, Tony.
He said scroll down, I think.
Keep
The
going.
photo
Yeah,
or the image?
there you go, right there. Thank you. So to the east is Springs at Coyote Ridge, and then kind of to the north and east is Coyote Ridge, which is the Ivory development. And then directly to the north is the Wasatch Medical subdivision, where there's the 2 medical office buildings. And this property is located just in the southwest corner of that annexation, just south of those medical office buildings. The property owners here are going to be required to do a couple things. One is extend Gilbert Peak Road. That was part of the annexation agreement. And then as part of this, the developers are also looking at this. It makes sense for them to pull this into their development. As part of the original agreement with the city, this property was not a signature to the development agreement, but was given the zoning of R3 with cozy overlay, which does allow for up to 12 units per acre. So there could be some multifamily on this property. The applicants who have this under contract aren't seeking to do that so much as they're looking to do something that's very close to what's already being done to the north. To the north, those medical office buildings were done as a conditional use permit in the R3 zone, which is a permitted right in this zone. So one of the requests that they're making, though, is that they're asking for similar buildings, but for them to also be able to use more of a general office or professional office uses as well, as there's quite a bit of medical in that area already. And then they're going to be asking for, on the east side of the future road to be built, townhomes that would blend into their project. So if we can scroll down to the overall site plan there. Keep
Oh,
going.
the next item on the
Go down,
left.
go down to the next. Yeah, thank you. So this is the site plan here. Again, they're extending Gilbert Peak Road to the south. It's a public road, and they're going to stub it to the north property as required by the development agreement. And they're going to do 12 townhomes, and we're discussing affordability with some of those townhomes, the 10%. They are a front-loaded product instead of an alley-loaded product, and the reason for that is because between these townhomes and the adjacent townhomes, there's an elevation change about 4 to 5 feet and a retaining wall. And so it wouldn't be feasible for them to be able to have an alley between those. They could, or to have the entrance. So they're proposing these front-loaded townhome units. And then again, you can see where the parking and those proposed buildings are. And then they're going to tie that into, on the south end, you'll see that they're making a loop for the access, tying into that private road network to allow for connection to Gilbert Peak Road, but also connection out. There isn't a proposed connection to UDOT right here. There are some existing access points. They'll have to work through that with UDOT if they want to utilize any of those. But this current plan would allow them to have access required by fire without having to connect back to UDOT. And so the traffic would flow towards the new light at Coyote Ridge Parkway. And then if you look through the elevations, those are the elevations that they currently are using or have built already, and they're proposing something similar. They may change a little bit, but they're wanting to do something that's in harmony with their existing development. If you can go back to the staff report, Tony. And looking at the general plan, this is neighborhoods with open space, and you can see here that the primary is single-family dwellings, and the secondary is townhomes, small lots attached, somewhere between 3 to 20 units per acre. We're talking about 12 units of townhomes, and then commercial space. Again, the way the zoning is right now, we could see 12 units per acre on this, and they're proposing to do 12 units total, and then that commercial that would be allowed as part of a conditional use. So staff's analysis is that it's meeting the general plan, neighborhoods with open space, as well as it is less dense than what the zoning would actually permit it to be. So with that, we're recommending a positive recommendation to the council with the conditions outlined in the staff report, which are, if you can scroll down, Tony. Primarily, city engineering requirements we met, fire district, and then there's a comment summary in there, but we ask that they meet those requirements, which is primarily regards to our standards for developments, utilities, and street infrastructure. So with that, and then we'd also have them continue the trail on Highway 40. That's also in that comment summary. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And this is a public hearing, which is required in the process. This is a legislative item, and I recommend you hold that public hearing, or give the applicant opportunity to share and then to hold the public hearing.
Okay, Jamie, thank you. There's nothing here for engineering to be involved in, right, Ross, at this point?
I'm just looking at the comments we made. No, we don't have any comments at this point.
I didn't see any. Okay.
Just so you know, our conditions are in what Jamie is referring to up there as in number 3, in that comment summary, which is the next document, well, 3 documents down in the agenda there. Yeah, that's where ours are located at. Our conditions are things that we've brought up already, which again, we don't have anything substantial to talk about.
I believe is the applicant with us tonight? Great. Come on forward and introduce yourselves to us. You're at liberty to address us before we open it for public comments, if you'd like.
Yeah, my name is Russ Paulson.
Hi.
Russ Paulson. Hello. I'm with Thrive Development, the developer on it.
Cal Johnson, Legend Engineering, civil engineer for the project.
Great. Okay. Any comments before we open it up or ask for the commissioners to be involved? Are you all good with everything that's been presented tonight?
I think Jamie did a great job presenting. I don't know that I really have anything that I add to what Jamie had to say. I'd love to answer any questions.
Okay.
That Shell may have.
All right. Very good. Commissioners, any questions before we open it up for public hearing? Okay, let's do that. So we've noted this as an opportunity for public hearing on the Springs at Coyote Ridge Phase 5's comment or Phase 5, this is a development agreement proposal, I believe. Just the same rules apply. Please come up, introduce yourself, and you have 3 minutes to speak. And hopefully those that would come behind aren't going to copy what you're saying, and we'll go from there. So we now consider the public hearing open. Anybody who'd like to comment, please come forward, introduce yourself, and give us your public comment. Welcome.
How you doing?
Good.
Excellent. Good to see you folks laboring hard to serve the community. I'm Randy Christ, and I live at 1723 North Highway 40, which is just across the street from the existing buildings that are there. Let's see, I've got a couple of comments. And actually the issue that we had initially was with the lighting of the signs. And I think the city had addressed that with the folks in power there, and they were nice enough to shut the lights off. Finally, they probably looked at their power bill and decided it was too much lights and nobody driving by in the middle of the night, which is great. So we appreciate you doing that. It's the same, isn't it? Oh, it's not. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, that's Watts.
It's different. Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I thought it was the same. Okay. Well,
You know what? Maybe we could ask.
so
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Jamie, could you, or Tony, could you bring up the larger site map that see where we're talking here? Because I think I have a couple questions too about something else. I think it's on the site plan. Yeah, the staff report.
Actually, you can see it clearly on Google Map. It's not shown on that.
Yeah, that's your house already.
yes, that's correct.
And then this target is kind of where.
Is where the new,
Okay.
they're proposing the new buildings.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so is it okay? Should we go ahead?
Yeah, we're good
So
now.
connecting that, yeah, even though it's not right across from me, it's still the light from those buildings penetrates, way back. I've got 7 acres there approximately, and it lights. If I look out my windows to the west, the light was coming way beyond that. And so they were good enough to shut off their night lights that they had on their advertising because, at 2 a.m, I don't need to be bathed. In fact, we shut all our lights off at night while that was happening because it was so bright. I had to get new curtains, bedroom windows. But these buildings are be a similar nature to the other ones. So we would ask that the new lighting codes or whatever the understanding is with night lighting be observed there. One thing I'll comment on is that the newer building on the north, it's still pretty much under construction. There has sconces mounted on white walls, which act like a floodlight. And that light just bounces off those walls and flies across the street like crazy. So I still have to work with code enforcement, and I'm sure it's the same property manager. They'll probably shut those off at some point. But I would ask that these new buildings, that the lighting be considered the night lighting.
Sure.
So my hope is that the second building, I'm sure they'll shut the lights off there at night as well. And they've got their little side security lights and things, but mounting a wall sconce on a white wall is not a good thing to do. They've actually got a couple on a brown wall, and those are fine. They're not objectionable at all, but anything on the white, it just like flies across the street. Let's see, other than that, I hope they put better finishes on their new buildings than are put on the existing buildings. They're really cheap. Their metal finishes are too thin, and they oil can in the sun, and they're all ripply. It doesn't look very nice. So if you go there, drive by, maybe take a look at that. It's not as good a finish as they could have put on if they'd used a heavier gauge metal, and it wouldn't make that bubbling effect. Well, you can see it right there on the building on the right, up high. Yeah, you get that all over when that wall heats up. And another thing that happens, I don't want to drag this out because it doesn't have anything to do with these guys, but their windows too have a lot of reflection from the sun in the afternoon. And it's like super intense. In fact, you can, if you go outside in the right spot, you can really feel the heat from the window and the glare that comes off of that glass in the afternoon. So I don't know what their building's going to look like. And it is a little bit south of me. It'll be like, will it be right next to this existing building where you're going? And then another one down there. So we'll probably have the same view of that. And I didn't see a driveway either coming out. You're forcing people over to Coyote.
Yeah, so access is all through Gilbert Peak and through the private road rather than out to 40.
Okay, so
on the
that
property.
there won't be a stub out next to Mr. North's property out to 40. No, it'll all go back the other way. Because what people are doing now is I know there's a sign there where you can see that. I think it's a stop sign, just a little. Yeah, that one. It's posted, no left turn, but people are there constantly turning left, and I'm waiting for somebody to get killed there because they go out and then the horns go off, and there is nothing there to stop them from going south on Highway 40 right there. And people do cut through from the development, from the housing, and come out there so they don't have to. Now, I don't know, the light is really efficient. In fact, the new light is super, I think.
You're talking about Coyote?
Coyote Parkway, the light there, because I actually went up in my barn and looked out the window and timed how long it takes for the traffic signals to
Do not believe
actuate.
there's a light scheduled on that road, is there? UDOT? Yeah. No. And UDOT is about to put in barriers between the two directions of traffic, so there will not be a
It's supposed to,
southbound turn.
that's
Only go
supposed
north.
to stop on my south property line.
Oh, right.
So it's not going
Oh,
to come. So
okay.
I'll still be able to turn and go north like I do
North.
now,
Okay.
as well as south. But that's what they said. I don't know what's going to actually happen. But the light has been a good thing, I think, at this point. And I was thinking that all the wrecks that happen at 900 North would start happening up here, but that hasn't happened yet. So, and it's slowed the traffic way down, and it's made it quieter as well. So, sorry about this. I'm taking up your time, but I hope the new buildings are finished better. If you go by and look at them, you'll see it looks horrible, and the new ones look better. And if there's no access out, and if you don't have sconces that light up at night, and so the building number one, the older building, they've shut off all their advertising lights for us at night, and there was really no reason to have them on because the street's empty. I could just go out and take a nap in the street at night when there's nobody out there. They have started turning them on in the morning, which is fine. They turn them on to like 5 o'clock, and that's fine because there's a lot of traffic going by, going to work, and they can advertise and stuff. And then they're shut off all day long. So, my only other comment is that we all worked on Envision 2050, and that was supposed to keep all this kind of commercial space in Heber or up at River Road and huddle it all together. I don't like that it's being stretched out along the highway. It makes it more look like State Street and Orem, and we were hoping that wouldn't happen. In fact, I think that document says it won't happen, and it's happening. It's being allowed to go forward. So I would object to the buildings just on the fact that it goes against what we all spent a ton of time working on the last 7 years. And other than that, anybody got a question for me? I'll try and answer it. Other than that, that's all I've got.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comment. Anyone else? Hi there.
Deanna Lloyd. My property is to the south of this annexation. So just a couple of things I wanted to clarify. So the existing townhomes have a road that goes in front of them. That's not the main road to come back in, or it is?
Are you talking about 16?
No, the one that, Yeah, right through.
Gilbert Peak.
Yeah, is that's the main road that will come in? So you're going down into the parking lot because there's that 4-foot difference.
Yeah, so Gilbert Peak Road has to, per the annexation agreement, has to be carried through as a public road. And then that will connect through to 1610 there. And so those 12 townhomes will be fronting on Gilbert Peak.
On Gilbert Peak. And are the townhomes similar to what is already there?
I think that's
Yes, they'll be similar. These ones will be, the only difference is these will be front loaded instead of alley loaded.
Mhm.
It allows for small little backyards, which we actually are excited about, but yeah.
Okay.
We have conceptual elevations that are similar-ish, right?
Those are pictures of our property next door, but yeah, those are very similar to what we'll build, except there'll be garages on the front
Garage
side.
doors.
Yeah.
Other than
And it's not in the near future for 1610 to go to Highway 40, correct?
I don't think it's
think it's
planned.
ever.
No,
And
it would
so-
just
Gilbert,
dead end.
go
yeah.
back around to the light, basically.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And to kind of speak more to that, Josh, is we approached UDOT about access onto Highway 40, and they noted that this is limited access here, and they would not recommend access to UDOT headquarters for this stretch of property here. They want access limited to the light up to the north, the one that they've already given for the Watts, and then to the south. They'd rather not have anything here.
And my concern is that someday that road will go right through my house, you know? So I'm like, I just try to watch what happens and be aware. They've been great neighbors and have worked hard. They did put in a privacy fence for us quite a ways, and I would love to see that privacy fence continue with this new development. But
In the draft development agreement we put together, we did say that we wanted to continue that privacy fence along all of Steve North's property.
all right, it's a good idea with livestock on the other side of it.
I live right here too, so
I know you do.
I want to be a good neighbor.
We appreciate it. I think that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Get up here, Laurel.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Laurel North. I live on the other side of the highway from where they're going.
Right there with the hayfield cut.
I'm the mother of the one that lives right on the spot, right next to him. But my concern is up to the spring where the playground is. That water, can you show that right there? Uh-huh. That water from that spring comes down on the Lloyd side and then it crosses over. Have you considered that water goes over and under the road? Have you talked with Steve about that?
Yes. I've had conversations with Steve about it.
Okay.
And we'll make sure that we don't mess with that water.
Okay. And the other question was, will UDOT won't allow you to have access off of there? I wondered if they would, because we fought for access like you can't believe.
Yeah, when we met with them, so we had 2 separate meetings, and both times they strongly pushed back on access on Highway 40.
We fought that all the time with them, but I don't know. I like the things that you've done with your buildings and coming on down with those buildings and having that for a front for the townhomes and things. And those are going to be townhomes, right? Okay. Well, we're doing a good job. Thank you guys for all your help.
Thank you. Thanks for waiting too. Would you like to say anything to us?
You've waited long enough, Raylan. Get up here.
You know, you saved us for the very end. Everyone who was here to comment.
There was-
is at the
I
that's
know
very
all
end.
3 of those ladies for decades.
Not a throw of the dice, but yeah. Hi there. Good evening.
And we like you, Josh, too.
Love you, Val.
My name is Raylyn Kohler. I am the owner of the property they're discussing. And what they have done, I think, is in conjunction with what they have already done and you've approved. And they've done a good job. The only thing that concerns me about this is they have incorporated the road, but please don't hurt my friends with the road in the future. Deanna's house is right in the path. And, you know, that's all I'm worried about is them. These guys are doing a good job and they're complying with what you ask. But, you know, if that road could, you know, wander in a different direction and not hurt them, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? I think we had everybody who had the patience to stay here this evening and online. Michelle, I managed to lose connection here. Could you see if anybody online is raising hands? No one? Okay, very well. Then we'll close the public meeting. Thank you all very much. And now the time is for the Planning Commission to have comment or questions for this proposal.
Can I say something to the commenters?
Sure.
I just want to thank you guys so much for being patient and coming this evening and sharing your thoughts with us. Of course, it's so much easier for us to hear from people who are civil and understanding, and I wouldn't say agreeable or agreeing to this completely, but I've been in other council meetings where you've spoken and you're just really thoughtful and practical and seem to have an understanding of what we can and can't really do. And that just is awesome for me. I just really appreciate that you're really engaged and understanding of what the limits are. And I can't even imagine what it would be like to be in your shoes and to own this beautiful property and to just see it slowly getting taken away. So again, just thanks so much for your thoughts and your reasonable interaction with us. And of course, it does help to have a developer that also is willing to work and be a good neighbor. But at the end of the day, you guys are losing the most for sure. So I just appreciate you being engaged. That's it.
Ross, I think we heard from you. It's all in your document, right? There's nothing there that's unusual.
Yep, don't have any concerns that aren't listed there. And the only thing I would ask is if they are objecting to anything we've written down or whatnot, we probably should address those. But other than that, I think they're pretty clear and I don't see anything that's objectionable to them, but maybe there is, I don't know.
So questions from the commission? I was wondering if this would be a good time to ask this question about front loading versus rear loading for a minute. So as Tony's pointed out in the issue of our Muirfield development, which too many people have heard, I'm the president of the HOA for the Muirfield development, and we're all front loaded on those. And quite honestly, with the pressure for those that are dwelling in the houses, those garages become storage more often than not. You have a very nice parking area right here. And I certainly respect the comment that by doing the front loading, they'll have backyards. And unless I'm mistaken, you're already fencing them off from each other. Is that correct here?
I don't know exactly how it'll turn out, but yeah, I think that's just showing the lot coverage.
That's showing the building. Okay.
But they'll at least be semi-private.
Yeah.
So if they're not fully fenced, which we just have trouble like maintaining landscaping if backyards are fully
Exactly.
fenced. But if you can do semi-private where it comes off 8 or 10 feet, so you can have a private area, but still get a lawnmower around to access it.
Yeah.
That's probably what we would do.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened in Muirfield at Hamlet Homes, and then ultimately all the owners put in all their own fences. And I can report to you that of the 94 doors that have that, 94 doors, we tracked about 11 that actually take care of their properties. The other balance is significant. It's embarrassing. what happens in that backyard. And the decks that come off the upper level have to look at it from the adjacent properties. The other part about front loading that I found really difficult is the fact that it is such a different feel to the street. The cars that are now blocking the sidewalks because they can't actually park on the driveways and they can't park in the garages, so they have to park on the street. So you can drive there today and see it. Now, a large part of, I understood, Tony, of our NVAs and a lot of the ideas that we've had about having rear-loaded properties was to present for the streetscape a really much more sort of, shall we say, residential area that's more attractive. So it's rare that I say anything because I try not to as the chair, but I'm beginning to start to feel pretty active about the fact that rear loading is in our policies or in our ideas for a reason. I think we see it actively now right behind Walmart, if not mistaken. I think that's a good example, Tony, of where we see a streetscape with stairs coming up to the upper level or straight into the house, and then all of the cars and all the activity that goes with it are now in the back, and that does allow the property to come a little bit more forward on the lot, which again is not as attractive to have them set back further from the street. But I'm just thinking long term about how so many, and you are very, very close. You're right on top of 40. If not mistaken, the entire population of Heber is going to have a really good view of your property for many years to come. So I don't know quite what to say other than my opinion, which is that I would say, in my opinion, it would be far better for us in the community to have you rear loaded. So then we'd actually be, and then those backyards would not just become what have become, as you'll see now today, a real embarrassment that we can do nothing about because the property owners own that property. They put up 8-foot fences. And unfortunately, what we see is from those that are either adjacent or from the distance. So the only thing that we can say as an HOA is that you cannot have anything in there that would cause a public risk, and that's generally fire. And that otherwise, we're not in a position to modify or change the way in which, and typically, over time, a lot of these properties become rentals. And that's our problem in Muirfield as well. We used to be about 70% owners. Now we're about 15% owners, and they're 85% tenants, renters. So that's my opinion. I thought I'd just give my opinion. So.
No, I really appreciate it, Chairman. Thank you. And just so you know, our property to the east is 93 units.
Yeah.
And it is all alley loaded.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we do, yeah, the one that Tony has up, and you can pull up
Yeah.
the street view on the Coyote Park side. It does really have a nice look from the street.
No doubt. And I think that honestly, I will tell you that affects the property owners ultimately really caring for the property is that their property sticks out like a sore thumb. With the front loading, there's so many who disregard the look of the property with the amount of stuff that sits in front of the property because it's not going into the garage as storage or not, is that it creates a culture in this entire area that I don't really care about what my front door looks like.
They're on the east side.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Okay.
No,
All right.
it is an eyesore, and I totally agree with you 100%.
Well, I think there's a reason why the city has come back and said as an objective, rear loading has a definite impact to the feel of the community, the respect the owners have for the community, because that's what you're calling upon. You're calling upon a neighborly action to take care of my property because it doesn't affect me. And the only place that we can go is you're destroying home values for yourself. That's the only thing we can go to. And then we hit their pocketbook with penalties. And even then, it seems like it doesn't matter. Okay, enough of that.
Are there any affordable units?
Yes. Per code, 10% have to be affordable.
Do you know what the AMI is?
I believe on our first phase, it was 80%. We haven't heard from council yet as to where that should be, but that's what we had anticipated.
I have.
Very good. Comments, questions, concerns?
I'm glad to finally see that piece get developed and finished out.
Yeah, yeah, it's nice to see that come across. Yeah. Okay. Well, again, we do not have any pitchforks and people ready to jump into this. So if the commission is interested, you can make a motion.
Sorry, I can't speak. Cat's got my tongue. Hey, Chairman, I would like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I move to forward a positive recommendation of the Springs at Coyote Ridge Phase 5 MDA to the City Council with the findings and conditions as presented in the conclusion of the staff report above, the 3 findings and the 3 conditions for the city engineer, the fire district, and the content summary must be met. Comment summary must be met. That is my recommendation.
Is
My
there a s-
motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second. Would the commissioners like to perhaps entertain a friendly amendment relevant to the night sky requirements that we've heard here this evening? And perhaps a condition to some of the finishes that are considered pursuant to the adjacent neighbors? Would you like a friendly amendment to that?
Want to do that since you
I was
seconded?
thinking that after the motion and we vote, that we should maybe look at our ordinances and correct them.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is just hold
This-
one
this-
person to
this
hold them
one-
to different rules.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that one, Derek. Okay. I'll withdraw what I just said. Okay.
I just
We-
had a quick question. Just
Sure,
to
hold
confirm.
on, hold on. So we have a motion, we have a second. We're open for discussion.
Great. Along his questioning of the commercial building, it is zoned and commercial is allowed and there's no variance being requested or anything like that, right? So there's nothing we can really do about the commercial buildings. That
Jamie, could you comment on that?
Yeah, so the commercial buildings, just like to the north, would be permitted as a conditional use permit. The ask by the applicant is to not limit it to medical office, but allow for other office type uses. So you could have a general office for whether it be some sort of consulting firm or some other type of general office type of use. So that's their request, is to allow for that to also be permitted.
it is permitted and even under the conditional use, those conditions are essentially met. So there's not really any.
Is there
Basically
is
just
there
widening it, the lens from just medical to include other
Which isn't
office space.
necessarily higher impact.
is there any prohibition of retail on the first level?
Within the zone?
Within what you're
Oh, in the
proposing.
MDA? I don't think,
No, not retail. Or we weren't anticipating retail.
Right. But there's no prohibition, is there?
The zoning would not permit.
That could be something that could be drawn in. I mean, you can do medical office and the request is let's just do office. Retail is a different category. And so I would think in the development agreement, if you don't want retail, probably ought to put it in the agreement. You're agreeing to it right now?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there is no retail in the developments that are there now.
To the north? Yeah. Those are
yeah,
just
it's
all
just
medical.
medical.
Well, and then it makes sense to have only office-based businesses there because then they're not active during when people are home in their homes.
Saturday and Sundays usually. But
Yes,
or Sundays.
T-U-Y.
Okay. All right. Any more questions? Any more questions?
Oh.
All right. We've had a motion. We've had a second.
Yes.
And then we've had an amendment that was graciously declined. Discussion. Anything else? Okay. Everyone in favor of the motion, please recognize by saying aye.
Aye.
Position nay. Unanimous. Well done. Thank you all. And thank you all so much for your comments and being here so late. We deeply appreciate you.
I'll get home safe. It's past your bedtime.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie. So we're going to tee up what's next. As we all know, tee it up. Sorry about that golf term. So as we know, starting into this year, we as a commission identified the Central Heber overlay zone as a large action item for us for the whole year. Many of us here participated in it for a very long time. And there you go. Wow. Josh's fan club is leaving the building.
That's true.
So that said, together with John and I believe it's Living Communities. What's his company? Sorry. People and Places. Of course, we've gone through quite a bit of work together, and a lot of us participated heartily in that. And then finally, it came forth over several meetings of the City Council and finally got through that process. During that process, there were quite a bit of shifts and changes in the digestion of this document from our City Council. And we thought it'd be a good idea for everybody here on the Planning Commission to get an update on exactly how City Council shape-shifted and moved forward in their role and responsibilities of adopting, which this has happened now and is adopted. So with that, I've asked Tony to walk us through the changes to the CHAWS as it was being adopted and is now adopted. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Chairman. On your reports on the website, there are several documents. You've got the final CHAWS that's clean. On there, I've also got a red line version from what you recommended to what the City Council ultimately adopted. You can see there appears to be a lot of red. There were some changes. I think the most significant, I'll walk you through that though. So September 9th, yeehaw, council adopted CHAWS. It's a very innovative